Time is 10 minutes after 7 o'clock on Voice of Africa Radio. Today, we are discussing these two important topics on this show, The Insight. Elizabeth, welcome to the studio. And Mahmoud, you're welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, UK access support for Mediterranean migrant rescue operation. Refugees and human rights organizations react with anger as ministers say saving people encourages others to risk the deadly voyage. Britain will not support any further search and rescue operation to prevent migrants and refugees drowning in the Mediterranean, claiming they simply encourage more people to attempt the dangerous sea crossing. Foreign Office Minister have quietly announced. Elizabeth.
Yes.
Once again, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Britain and the European Union will soon end their search and rescue mission on the Mediterranean Sea for the excuse that by doing so, it encourages a lot of migrants to embark upon this deadly voyage. Is it right for European Union as well as Britain to stop the search and rescue on the Mediterranean Sea?
The situation is a lot more complicated than that. We have to look actually at the economics of the situation. There is no pan-EU, pan-UK search and rescue system. There never has been. What was in place was, in fact, the Italians had set up an organisation called Mare Nostrum, which was costing them €9.5 million a month to maintain. And that was a sea search rescue system. Last year it saved 150,000 people. There were 3,000 deaths, I believe, this year. Last year, 2013, we had the Lampedusa tragedy. I think that was about 361 deaths. So it's a question of economics. And also, we don't want to encourage organised crime. Furthermore, the UK has committed £12 million to assist with Calais port security. So we can't be spending everywhere, and we have to adjust our budget according to our means and to our appropriate focus. And really, the UK focus is Calais, whereas the Italians' focus is, of course, the Mediterranean coastline. Now, the Greeks, they are also one of the main conduits into the EU for illegal migrants. The Greeks have now built a massive wire fence, which is, I believe, 13 feet tall and 7 miles long. And that goes along the border of the Evros River. And I believe that now has more or less ended land illegal migration. And so that has also put an increase on pressure for sea migrant boats coming into the Mediterranean. Now, the real problem about this is what on earth is going on in the governance, with the governments of the countries these people are fleeing from. I mean, they're largely from Iraq, Syria, Egypt,
Elizabeth,
Afghanistan.
we will come there and discuss the genesis of the whole problem and why people are fleeing their countries to seek so-called seeking greener pasture in the West. Mahmoud, is it morally right for Britain and European Union to stop the search and rescue mission on the Mediterranean?
No, it is absolutely morally wrong. And can I just say, what a poignant song you played. It should give a thought to all your listeners. We cannot put a price on life. If you yourself saw a child drowning, would you worry the child was black, white, Christian, Muslim, illegal or legal in this country? You'd want to save his life. And that's what this should be about. It should be about saving lives. But I will agree with Elizabeth. It is about economics. What happened, you see, after the First and Second World War, the map of the world of Africa, Asia was redrawn. And what it meant was people were put together that one naturally did not feel together. And so you have conflicts and wars. And trying to put that right. So these conflicts and wars have left many countries in poverty. These people don't have food to eat. They feel danger. They don't feel safe. And naturally, if it was any one of us, we'd want to go to the nearest port where we felt safe and we would have food on our plate. So let's not blame these people. I think what we need to do is look at our trading, the way we trade with countries, and make a more fair trading term so these countries can develop themselves.
Well, Elizabeth, last year, October 2013, 500 migrants died on the Mediterranean. That was the Lampedusa tragedy. Since then, over 2,500 have drowned or gone missing in the Mediterranean since last year. And limited EU border protection operation, codenamed the Triton, and they're managed by Frontex, launched on 1st of November this year to see that just migrant or the organized criminals who organize this boat carrying the migrant from north of Africa would not be allowed or will be searched and rescued in case there is a tragedy. But why do you think that European Union, some members of the European Union nations and Britain are saying that they wouldn't want to be part of the Triton and save and secure rescue because they think that will encourage more migrants for making this deadly voyage? Is it right?
Well, it is a fair comment because we don't want to be part of the chain of consequence arising from organised crime. But again, it's economics. You just mentioned on the 1st of November, Mare Nostrum, the Italians' own search and rescue system, ends and it's being replaced by the EU's Triton. The Triton system costs £2.9 million per month, whereas the previous Italian Mare Nostrum cost 9.5. So it's a huge reduction there. Also, the Triton is not going to do any deep sea investigation. It's basically going to do border control. So it's a tightening of the belt. We don't have the funds in place. Furthermore, I understand that there has been previously an agreement between all 28 EU countries to agree to there being an inshore policy to keep refugees safe on North African dry land. And that really is the focus. We need to look at what is going on in the economies and the poor governance of the countries from which these people are fleeing. And furthermore, let us not forget, it's not just the Mediterranean. There is a huge crisis in Calais.
Well, before we go to the reasons why they are fleeing from their countries, this comment made by the British government has drawn a lot of criticism from human rights activists and religious leaders and organizations, talking about some of the comments that were made was the British Refugee Council Chief Executive, Maurice Ryan, says the British government is irresponsible for doing that. And even if they stop the search and rescue, so people will embark on this deadly voyage from Libya and other places to come and seek greener pastures in the West. Why do you think some of these organizations...
It's not just about greener pastures. Sometimes there are conflicts going on. It's just about keeping your family safe. So it's just not about greener. It is about keeping safe. And I absolutely agree with the human rights organization. It is heartless. It is wrong. There have been some figures of money bounced around. They do seem like a lot of money. But when you look at the overall budget of the EC or countries, even some rich bankers, it actually doesn't make that much dent at all. You know, it's in the great scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. But it does save lives. We do need to look at carefully and see how we can help to develop the economies of this country, like we've developed the economies of Europe. We could expand that a bit more, make it a more even playing field. So that
Elizabeth, yes. But none of this authority have stated that it was as a result of their monetary commitment or financial commitment. That's why they are stopping the search and rescue mission. But they said just to discourage others from embarking upon this mission. So why should we put premium on the amount of money that will be spent every month to conduct these operations?
Well, my point is that it clearly is an economic decision, because the Italians' previous system, Mare Nostrum, was costing €9.5 million a month, whereas the new system, conveniently coming in 1st November, is only costing 2.5 million. So there's a big reduction in monthly cost for the EU and the surrounding area around Italy. So it is quite clear that behind that, the main decision will be an economic driver. We have to accept that. That is reality.
So if we've been able, the Italians, where operation was costing a lot more, and the operation put together by the European Union will be less, why countries like Britain do not want to support such an operation?
Well, I don't think it's a question of necessarily supporting it. I understand that's what the Conservative minister said about the situation with the smugglers, and I can understand that he doesn't want to facilitate organised crime. I understand that smugglers are charging on average about 6,200 for people to be smuggled. So clearly, it would sound to me that could be like largely perhaps the young, ambitious, perhaps middle-class males of these areas who are taking the opportunity to pay the smugglers to come across, because I doubt many people could afford 6,200 to pay the smugglers. I don't suppose the governments want to facilitate and encourage organised
politically
crime.
We want to justify our means of our actions by saying that, well, we cannot do it because people are being smuggled on boats, but we can see them desperately getting on board of this kind of wrecked ship boat trying to come to Europe. Not that they were so desperate to leave their countries because of war, our foreign policies, what it has done onto them. That was why some of them, because if we can recollect, Gaddafi, before we took away Gaddafi in 2011, he clearly stated that, look, if Gaddafi is off, the shores of Europe will be flooded with migrants. And in fact, we didn't listen to him. We called him a mad dog, and we got rid of him. After we got rid of him, the next tragedy was the Lampedusa, which happened. They were from Libya. They weren't from Afghanistan, neither were they coming from Syria. They were from Libya. So why are we not trying to remedy the problem that we have created, but rather we are trying to exacerbate the problems more?
Well, the way of remedying them would be to focus, and as I said earlier, on the lack of governance, the institutional corruption within these countries, and see what can be done, what management needs to be brought into these countries to get them back on track. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that the interventionist policies of the Labour Party, removing Saddam Hussein, who of course was an ogre, but look what we have now, in the situation that we're living in now, and of course the coalition encouragement of the removal of Gaddafi. Again, I appreciate he was an ogre, a very harsh police state, but of course he maintained order, and I understand that most people could eat. But I don't think that perhaps why is Italy paying for that? I mean, another problem
they contributed to the problem by providing airspace to the coalition to bomb Libya. Therefore, the African migrants in Libya must find a place to go.
But the majority, I'm prepared to bet that the majority of these illegal migrants are in fact economic. And the problem is with Italy, when they've been entering Italy, Italy says that 2/3 of them want to immediately remove themselves to richer European countries. They don't want to stay in Italy. And the Italians have been facilitating this, even though this is a breach of the EU conventions and agreements. So Italy's breaking the law, dispersing them throughout the whole of Europe. And mostly the end game is to come to the UK. So Italy's breaking the law. These smugglers are breaking the law by facilitating them coming in these rickety boats.
Well, Mahmoud, our foreign policies, is it encouraging young, vibrant, strong, dynamic youth from Asia and north of Africa to perish?
Well, I live in a very diverse area, and I haven't seen any these immigrants that are middle class or wear three-piece suits or anything. But let's look at the immigration pattern. Your listeners can think for themselves. Where is our immigration pattern been? Afghanistan, Iran-Iraq war, Iraq, some of the African countries, and now Libya. There's your answer. We mustn't facilitate conflict, but facilitate development of the countries. And that's why these people, they don't go through free choice to these criminals and smugglers. They go there through necessity. If my family was in danger, my children, my grandchildren were there, I would want to do everything to keep them safe.
So keeping them safe is to come to Europe?
Sometimes it is to take them to a country that has a more political stable system.
Well, Elizabeth, we're talking about Italy dispersing the migrant from coming there.
Yeah.
And under the UN Convention on Immigration, Asylum, Refugees, what can the UN do to Italy as far as they are contravening the law to anybody seeking refuge in any country to be granted refugee based on a genuine case?
Well, I don't think Italy's necessarily doing anything wrong at the moment. I mean, all it's done is reduced its huge monthly bill, having to police this area. I understand anyone who probably turns up will still be allowed entry, and as I say, Italy is simply dispersing them throughout the whole of Europe. Mind you, this is not a new problem. Let me just give you a quote. Who do you think said this? Our national security is supreme and shall not be compromised on any account. Who said that about illegal migrants?
I don't know.
I'll tell you. It was the Ghana Minister for the Interior in 2009, because in 2009, Ghana had taken in a large number of Liberian migrants. Mm-hmm. And during that time, there were a lot of conflict with these Liberian migrants because they...
I remember in Bujumbura.
Yes, that's the
Ghana.
very one. But
exactly they were given refuge, and they were given a whole township. But what they chose to do was they mounted barriers and they were robbing and shooting people because the UN couldn't provide enough funds to the Ghanaian government to look after the refugees, and they resulted in women became prostitutes, men were robbing, and there were a whole lot of mishappenings in Ghana, which was a very peaceful central region part of Ghana. It was very peaceful, but they turned that place to be very chaos. So some fanatics in Ghana had wanted the Ghanaian government to deport or to remove all the Liberian refugees, and the government said, you cannot do that.
Well, the stats, there were 19 Liberians in particular were very politicised, and they demanded that the UN and the Ghanaian government either send them to the West or pay them tenfold the UN's repatriation settlement. And what the Ghana government did, it repatriated 16 of them, deported them out of the country. And in fact, the press at the time was saying that the Liberian migrants are a big threat to us. They're causing crime and havoc.
Yes.
So it's an old story that goes round and around.
But this whole incident would not have prevented Ghana from taking refugees from Ivory Coast when there was crisis in Ivory Coast. We still had refugees coming in, people coming to seek refuge in Ghana. So why is it that now we as the West, when I'm talking about we, the Britain and the European Union, we thought we were the purveyors of democracy, and democracy is rule of law. Therefore, if we abide by rule of law, why should we, under the face of law, leave people to perish in the middle of the ocean for the sake of preventing others from getting in?
Well, I don't think anyone would want to leave anyone to perish at sea. However, I don't understand why these people aren't applying for immigration visas to the EU, and why they think they know what they're doing is illegal, why they think that they've got a right just to pay the criminals in their country to facilitate human trafficking. And it won't just be the facilitating of human trafficking.
But these are being said by the politician. Yeah. We haven't established any fact, or we haven't got any evidence, concrete evidence to say that they are paying the criminals to convey them.
Absolutely, Adam. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the rescue operations actually encourage people of migrate to Europe. It doesn't. And plus the other, you've got to understand European immigration policy. Say, for example, a Libyan. By the way, the reason that Italy has special responsibility is that Libya was Italy's colony. And there's absolutely... And if, for example, a Libyan comes to Italy and seeks refuge, and he then makes his way into, let's say, France or Britain or Germany or any other country, the EU actually, less it is, that they have to go back to Italy, the first port of call, and seek political asylum there. So they cannot work their way up into Britain as some people suggest, or not as easy as some people suggest it is. But there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the people, I mean, if you look at it realistically, if you was on a boat in the middle of the ocean and you ran a risk of falling into shark-infested water in sub-zero temperature, saying, yeah, but I might get rescued, so it doesn't matter. You're not going to take that chance, are you? Unless it's absolutely necessary to save your children, your grandchildren, your wife, your husband, or anybody's life.
Well, you still tune into Voice of Africa Radio. The program is Insight, 30 minutes after 7 o'clock on Voice of Africa Radio. Elizabeth Jones, UKIP prospective parliamentary candidate for Dartford, and Deputy Chairwoman Sadok is in the studio discussing these topics with me. I have Mahmoud Fiaz, Leighton and Wanstead, Liberal Democrat, a social political analyst and a human rights activist, also sitting in the studio with me discussing this important issue. Before we go to our next topic, Elizabeth,
yes,
can the West do something apart from allowing people to die in the middle of the ocean to prevent this situation?
Well, what the West should be doing is escorting these boats back to the shore they left, and ensuring that those people leave those boats safely and re-embark onto the shores from whence they came. And there needs to be a full analysis, which will involve the UN and the EU, a full analysis as to why there is such institutional corruption, why there's such poor governance that people are fleeing. The people who are fleeing, I understand, in the Mediterranean boats are largely from Eritrea, Ethiopia, Ghana, Iraq, Syria, and Egypt. What on earth is going on? Obviously, we understand the things going on with Iraq, but what on earth is going on that there is such poor organisation in these countries that people cannot have what is everyone's birthright, that is to grow up and enjoy a family and have a good life in your own homeland? Why are people missing out on this? And this really needs to be the focus. We just can't sustain the situation that's happening with Calais. We've got the mayor of Calais is saying, actually, which she said on the 28th of October, the migrant population has changed now. It's become more violent. They're harassing the people of Calais, and there's a lot of mafia and a lot of traffickers in the population. And if she's saying that there's a lot of mafia and trafficking in the Calais migrant population, I'm sure there will be with the sweep coming across the Mediterranean. Because it wouldn't surprise me, the sweep from the Mediterranean probably makes its way eventually to Calais. And what are we going to do about Calais as well? That's another major problem.
Well, Mahmoud, what do you think we should do to prevent these young men from leaving the shores of their country to Europe?
Well, we know what it is. First of all, let's look at the facts. Don't posture to right-wing politics. There's absolutely, like I said before, there's absolutely no evidence to prove that they're coming over here on the hope that they might get rescued or be drowned in sub-zero temperature, get eaten by sharks. We need to look at the world conflicts, see how we can put that right. If we do have the facility to put it right, we can put it right. For example, Pakistan, India and Kashmir. It's well within Britain's reach to do it. But we'd rather posture right-wing politics and do the right thing. And I think we need to develop the economies of the country, make a more fair, even economical development playing field for all of the countries and not just for Europe as we've done. We've seen the benefit what's happening in Europe. We've had peace for so long, where we had a common policy of free trade. If we could widen that...
My question to you is, Libya was peaceful before 2011. We never had this problem of migrants flooding the shores of France and Italy and Britain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why all of a sudden the paradigm shift of these migrants?
Because these people are not coming to economical migrants. These people are coming for safety. Libya is... Who's in charge of Libya? Can anybody tell me who's the president, who's the prime minister? There is no government in that country. And it's something that we need to look at closely, and it's a mistake that we've made, and we should help to put that right.
Do we have blood on our hands?
Well, I personally don't have blood on my hands. I don't think the UK has blood on her hands. It is a chaotic situation. However, Libya has always been a reasonably chaotic situation. It's always been a police state. It's only now that all this has come to light. But again, why are these countries at heart and historically so lacking in governance and have such institutional corruption that these situations can arise? Why are their structures so weak that the first sign of stress, the whole country collapses into chaos? This is something that really does need investigation. I don't know if it's a lack of education within the countries. I don't know what the situation is, but this is something that needs to be looked at internally. If we're going to quote Michael Jackson, it's the man in the mirror. We need to look at the man in the mirror and find out what is going on.
Well, this is it. You still tune into Voice of Africa Radio, 35 minutes after 7 o'clock. You are hearing the voices of Elizabeth, Jones, Mahmoud, Fiaz with me in the studio. Let's go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we change our topic. We will be discussing the government's unveiling plans to scrap the use of caution in England, police caution in England and Wales, and replace them with a system of suspended prosecution. The aim is to ensure that there are more direct consequences in future for committing even a minor crime. Do not go anywhere. Stay in touch with us on Voice of Africa Radio. We will be back. Well, you welcome back from the break on Voice of Africa Radio. It's 38 minutes after 7 o'clock. You still tune in to Voice of Africa Radio. I am in the studio with Elizabeth Jones and Mahmoud Fiaz. The government has planned to scrap the use of caution in England and Wales and replace them with a system of suspended prosecution. Elizabeth? Yes. Scrapping of caution, police caution, a plan by government so that minor offenders can be punished.
Well, it's going to be a suck it and see situation. UKIP doesn't have a view of this as yet because this is a pilot programme. It's going to be trialled for 1 year in Staffordshire, West Yorkshire and Leicestershire, and that begins this month, November 2014. And the aim is, it's got a 3-tier punishment system. The aim is to repair any damage done, to pay compensation for less serious crimes, and the more serious one is that if you breach any conditions, then you will be subject to criminal proceedings. For the first offenders, you'll get a statutory restitution, which is not a criminal record, whereby you'll be required to give a verbal or written apology and compensation or repair damage that you've done. And the next stage under the new scheme will be a suspended prosecution, whereby you'll be required to pay a fine or attend a rehabilitation course, and that will be a criminal record. The aim is to reduce bureaucracy and give officers a great deal of discretion. Again, I believe this is probably a cost-cutting exercise. Over the last couple of years, I'm sure you're aware, there's been a huge over-escalation perhaps in criminal behaviour. In 2013, 230 cautions were given. And 2012, the Metropolitan Police gave 28,000 cautions, 180 for grievous bodily harm. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. 165 for sex offences and 318 cautions, I repeat, cautions, just for drug trafficking. So who knows how this is going to pan out. I don't know if it's going to be a cost-cutting exercise. My concerns are, of course, that fines are very rarely paid. People don't often comply with their conditions for community service, and it'd be interesting to see what impact that will have with regard to civil conduct, employment and education. So who knows? I think it's going to have to be a suck it and see situation.
Well, Mahmoud, what is wrong with our caution culture?
Well, I mean, with the caution, what happened is you're given a caution, a record is kept, and you walk away scot-free. Technically, nothing's happened. What this will do, you will have to actually compensate the victim. And then it'll be a record kept, and if you do wrong again, you'll be in prison. But I thought this is not... This is not a golden wrong that you can wrong and suddenly everything's done. What we need to look at crime and punishment overall together and take a fresh view. I've said over and over again, the mind is like a parachute. You need to open it for it to understand. For example, let's look at our prison. Who's actually in prison? Sometimes it's people with depression, illnesses, people on drugs. Taking drugs is a criminal offence. But once you become a drug addict, You're actually now an illness. You should be treated as a patient.
Were the politicians who were sent to prison for misappropriation of funds, sick, drug?
Well, that's a criminal. That's a criminal. No,
yeah, so
that's
we can't say.
Right. If we could take those people and treat people for drugs, so the prison are full of, then we could put people in for example, white collar crime. A lot of people in white collar crime get away absolutely scot-free, like you rightly said, because we don't have enough prison sentences, prison places.
We kept some of them in prison for 6 months and they were out, they lost their jobs.
So what we need to do is take a fresh approach, because if punishment and putting longer prison sentence was the key to everything, then during the Victorian times, where there was much more punishment, longer crime sentence, we would have had no crime. Instead, we had massive crime. We did. So what we need to do is take a fresh approach, look at what actually works, what doesn't work. Prisons nowadays, everybody absolutely agrees, have become colleges of crime. So we need to stop that and look at crime and punishment, not only in this petty crime, but overall in larger crimes and right across.
Well, Elizabeth,
yes.
You did say that you think this is a cost-cutting exercise.
Yes,
how can this be a cost-cutting exercise whereby the policemen will be there to exercise their discretion, invite the victim, go into some form of clerical duties before a punishment can be meted out? How can this be a cost-cutting exercise?
Because I anticipate a lot of it will be at the as I said earlier, a lot of it will be at the officer's discretion. I think it may result in a lot of minor crimes simply not being investigated, and I should be very interested to see the stats as to whether there will be a big hike in the NFA, that is, no further action. That will be the get-out-of-jail card for if the police are feeling absolutely snowed under with bureaucracy.
You prefer the caution culture to this new plan to scrap the caution culture, whereby the victim and the perpetrator could be brought together to seek some justice, which will be supervised by a police officer or any officer in charge?
It's difficult to say, because I say it's a trial. We need to see how it actually pans out, how the machinery of it works. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think personally, if someone had caused me criminal damage, I don't think I'd want them around my house repairing that, to be honest. I don't think I'd ever want to see them ever again. And as for the verbal written apology, well, what's use that? I mean, any young psychopath can lie and smile to your face and say anything they need to say to get off the hook. There's another real crisis at the heart of this. I mean, Fiaz just mentioned the crisis about prisons, but also everything's money, money, money. Everything's about economics. So I see this basically as a way of cutting costs, perhaps cutting the costs of investigating minor crimes, and also getting people out of the criminal justice system.
But already before we caution somebody, we don't investigate the crime. We just look at it and say, you are here smoking weed and we've seen you smoking. Hello, next time don't stand here and smoke weed again, or do not smoke again. Go. But this one, we need to investigate, or we need to find out how many doses of weed is in your this thing before we give you the suspended whatever we want to give to you to punish you, so that next week you will not come outside and smoke your weed again. Wouldn't that be more cumbersome than this current practice that we are in?
It may well be. As we just say, we just need to see how it pans out. I mean, I can't imagine that there's going to be any greater investigation. I'd have thought probably there'd be less investigation, particularly with the first-time offenders, because there's no real impact. There's just there'll be no criminal record. So for the first offence, no criminal record, statutory community restitution, the verbal written apology, which I don't think is pretty meaningless, followed by the compensation and repairing of damages. As I say, I certainly wouldn't want them at my home. I don't know if you would. But the big balance against that means taking people out of the criminal justice system, reducing the number of people with criminal records, and also it obviously has an impact on the number of people going to prisons, and at the moment we do have a significant prison crisis.
Well, Mahmoud, the minor offences, they will be able to impose a community resolution, which could include making reparation, as Elizabeth said, paying of financial compensation. So if it's economics, we will get more people to pay money, to have money to roll out the program successfully. Wouldn't that be of benefit to the government and the people to fight crime?
I mean, obviously the listeners can't tell, but I'm considerably older than you, Adam, and Elizabeth. And actually, believe it or not, this is actually rolling back the clock. This is the day when policemen used to walk down the street, and if you was playing, let's say, say football in the street, and you kicked a ball and broke someone's window, the police would grab you by the ear, take you over to the house and say, right, repair the window, pay for it, or get your mum and dad to pay for it, and that'll be all, and make sure you don't play football again in the street. So it's rather like that. It's rather like petty crime, which takes up a lot of time, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of paperwork. Cut that down, put minor crimes right. And it's sort of designed for we're not talking about the seasoned criminal or the career criminal. We're talking about someone who does something wrong first time. For example, I don't know, just knocks over someone's bike and then scratches their bike or something like that by default or whatever. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about drug trafficking and murdering or rape or anything like that. So, if someone does kick a football in your window, breaks your window, and says, look, I'll come and clean it, I'll clear it up, I'll repair it, you're perfectly safe in his house. Why not? He's not a murderer, not a rapist.
Therefore, he can just do that and just come and clean it.
Oh, yeah, because he's made a mistake. He's willing to put it right. They savaged you in the old days.
Chris Glenn has said that the criminals or who commit lower crime can be dealt with by little more than a warning, which, of course, we don't believe in that. They want to see anybody bear responsibility of whatever they do. What is your take on that?
Well, at heart, I'm sure he means well. I understand that he wants there to be the direct consequences for committing minor crime and for the voices to be heard loudly. I don't know if that will succeed, though. If you look at the current criminal system we have, I mean, how many people actually complete their restitution? How many people actually complete the community service? And let's not forget the huge number of criminal fines that are written off. So it's all very well saying, oh, we'll get you compensation or get you repair, or with a suspended prosecution you pay your fine or attend a rehab course. And also, the big issue is, if you look at 2012, the Metropolitan Police issuing 28,000 cautions, 180 for GBH. I mean, what on earth's going on? 165 for sex offences and 318 for drug trafficking. These are heavy-duty crimes being brushed away with cautions. So my big fear is that instead of these being actually at least being within the net of the caution, that they'll be even further brushed away with the NFA, no further action. Perhaps the police will just brush a lot of these items away and not
isn't these are some of the reasons why the Justice Secretary wants to see that any little offences that one commit should be brought to justice. The offender should be brought to justice by either compensation, in the form of compensation or reparation, or being punished for whatever you do.
That's correct. That is the design. That is what it's designed to do. That may be, what Chris Grayling wants it to do, but the practicality of how the police roll it out is another matter, because the police will have a great deal of discretion with this new process. And when they've been given discretion with cautions, as I say, with the Metropolitan Police 2012, 180 cautions for GBH. I just hope to God that the meter will swing the other way from using cautions and NFA to taking these issues more seriously.
So, is the onus lies on the police to make sure that this system works and prevent crime, petty crime in the country?
Well, if we go back to the old scenario of, say, someone breaking a window, at the moment, what happens? The policeman spends his time so much in making cautions, doing this, doing that, that my window will still stay broken, and the person still will go unpunished because he's underage. So it's not really achieving it. What this will do is, and we've got to be honest, let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, let's see how
it pans out. Let's see how it does. I don't think it is a money-saving exercise. I think it is one where, the victim is being considered, where things are put right. And that's what we look. But we have to see how it pans out. The new system, I think, could work better, and may well be seen in the eyes of the victim.
But the National Policing lead on out-of-court disposal, Chief Constable Lynn, said that the out-of-court settlements has also changed several times, and he thinks that this will not follow the same trend whereby it will change so different that it cannot be further simplified. So they want the out-of-court disposal to be much simplified. how can we do that? This is a new rules altogether. So can't we put in modalities to arrest the growth of it for further to make it so cumbersome that understanding of it and executing it by the police or the law enforcement agencies wouldn't be out of hand, just like the out of court disposal?
Well, as I say, we've just got to see how it pans out. They've got a year's worth of trial in Staffordshire, West Yorkshire and Leicestershire, and we just don't know at this stage how it's actually going to work in practice. I mean, at the moment, we currently have 6 out-of-court disposals. We've got the caution, we've got the conditional caution, we've got penalty notice, and we've got the cannabis warning. So we already have these, and these have developed organically through the policing system. And now we've got to see how this works. I mean, obviously, the beauty of the first-time offender community restitution is that it's not a criminal offence, whereas the caution would be noted. So that's the benefit to first-time offenders, that if they do cooperate, they won't have a criminal offence.
Mahmoud.
Oh, sorry, criminal record, not offence, also.
I mean, clearly Elizabeth is pointing out some of the benefits to the new system. For example, if someone does make a minor crime and it's an error of judgment at that time, they've got a criminal record, they may not find another job.
So if you got a criminal record, which of course you will not be getting a job, is what you don't want to have. But if you are asked to say sorry to Mahmoud, write a letter to him, go to his house and clean, sweep the street, so that next time you wouldn't do that, that would be preferably.
Well, plus after doing that, don't forget you must be proven not to have criminal, because if you still commit a crime, and like Elizabeth says, just be nice on the face and then go and do something again, you're caught doing so, you will go to court.
Well, listeners, you still tune into Voice of Africa Radio. It is 53 minutes after 7. I am in the studios with Elizabeth, the Rock, the next Margaret Thatcher of Dartford, and hopefully she gets the bid to become the MP, the first female UKIP MP in Parliament. I have Mahmoud first, which of course we are trying to get his bid out to make him one of the MPs in Westminster, so to make laws that will be binding. Him and Elizabeth, I would love to see them in the House of Commons. Now, policing in England and Wales, especially with this law coming in, they will have discretion. We know giving police the discretion to do stop and search draw a lot of criticism of the police service and the mistrust of people, the way people mistrust police by saying the laws were used by police to just stop other ethnic minorities in the United Kingdom. So wouldn't this law also, when it's tried and tested in these 3 places and is overall practiced in England, wouldn't it also draw the same criticism by a same group of people say that, wow, I did a little thing, but because the police hated me so much, I was given £90 fine, or I was asked to write a letter to Elizabeth because she's white and I'm black?
Well, that can be thrown at the police anywhere, anytime, anyhow, whether it's founded or unfounded. We don't know. We've just got to see how it pans out.
Well, Mahmoud, crime prevention, policing, and law and order. We want to see our streets being, you can walk without fear, you can do everything, no young man will slap you or do anything. So would you say kudos to the Justice Secretary for saying that we need to see that any minor offender bear responsibility of whatever he or she does?
Well, as Liberal Democrats, we tend to concentrate, not necessarily we believe that every key is on punishment, but it's on prevention of crime.
But now we believe that offenders go scot-free.
Well, let me say, if we give you an example, one of the things you mentioned was, we know that the police, there's been issues where he has been proved to be intentionally racist. There's been cases, and so things can be thrown innocently as well. And one of the ways we Liberal Democrats think we should feel is that every police officer should carry CCTV. Now, you may think that this is ridiculously impractical, but actually it has been used in America, where it has been used.
What is the crime rate in America?
70% fall in complaints against the police. So instead of dealing with complaints,
American police will shoot you.
Right, no, we're not saying... Bear in mind,
them?
you can't put America in one pocket. America's a very diverse country. There are absolutely horrendous cases.
A very brutal country.
Well, some are, and some are very nice as well. You know, don't forget about any country, whether it's Ghana, Nigeria, Britain, France, anything. The most newspapers are going to hear about the worst of it.
Institutionally.
You're going to hear the worst of it. You're not going to hear the nice things about it. No newspaper in this country, Britain's going to write, say, do you know in America, in this state, the police are such a nice people?
Elizabeth, the Liberal man is urging the British police to carry...
Can I just, finish? 70% fall in complaints against the police.
Police should wear CCTV gadgets on the streets of London. Already we've got CCTV everywhere. Why should police carry CCTV?
Well, I think that's going to be rolled out in London anyway. I understand that that's what they're expecting, a huge reduction.
And do you want to see that?
I've got no issue with that at all. In fact, I think it would iron out a lot of conflict. And I think it would reduce the burden on the criminal justice system, because you start with the police, then you're going to slowly go through the court system, and the court's time is at a premium. We have a huge backlog of court cases, and time is expensive. So if we can take some of these unnecessary situations out of the court, great. So
then that means this law will help the court system, the judicial system, because there are no petty cases that will be going to the court, because police will have discretion in treating some of these issues.
That's correct, but that only applies to the first-time offender. If it goes to the stage 2, then you'll get a suspended prosecution, whereby you're requested to pay a fine or attend a rehabilitation course, and then you will get a criminal record. And I presume then if you break that, then you will be going to court. So I think it seems like a 3-tier system before you get to the court.
All right, Mahmoud.
What this will do, this system Liberal Democrats are proposing, what this will do is actually help the police, because don't forget, when a crime is committed, there are 3-4 policemen. Each one needs to write a statement. Now, if there's an actual recording of the event, then these police can look at the tape, the court can look at the tape, the victim can look at the tape, the prosecutor can look at the tape, the defense can look at the tape, and you get a fair trial.
How many people are going to see this tape, and how much are we going to pay them?
Well, I mean, what's a price of... It will actually save money. It won't cost you money, because now if, for example, a crime is committed and there's 4 policemen there, each one has to write a statement. Each one then has to tally with the statement of one another, which can be challenging court to say...
One can write a statement and all will copy different languages. Wouldn't that make the statement good? It's the same statement, isn't it?
No, because that would be fraud. What happens is each person writes a statement,
Elizabeth,
and it's tallied up.
Your last word on this policing in England and Wales, which will soon, if tried and tested properly at these 3 places there, Leicestershire, Staffordshire, and...
Well, I just hope it doesn't result in a huge increase in NFA, no further action.
Thank you very much, listeners, for staying to us. It's News at 8.